oh my god, we're back again with this hate speech bill, guys. This thing is not gonna be flipping going anywhere. It's like a bad smell. You cannot get rid of it, guys. Listen, today we're gonna be reacting to the Irish hate speech bill is back. Here's what it means. Gripped media article, guys. Looks like we have Roger O'Gorman here, Ben Scallon giving a breakdown. So obviously, like for the past few months, it's been going up and down. You know, it would go away for a few weeks, the hate speech bill, then it would come back for a few months, and then people would do an uproar about it, so it would go away for a few more weeks, and then it would come back for a few more weeks. So absolutely insane, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below what you all think. Hopefully we can get rid of this bill, smash it, but of course, you know, they want to pass it, so it's probably going to get passed, unbelievably so. So let me know in the comments what you all think, and let's go, guys.
Breaking news, it turns out that zombies are in fact real and not just confined to fictional movies and TV shows. What do I mean exactly? Well, it appears as though the shambling, dishevelled remains of the Irish hate speech bill have been dug up and reanimated by Irish politicians like some sort of Dr. Frankenstein and necromancy experiment gone wrong. The bill, which most people thought had been totally abandoned and buried, is now menacingly lurching towards the statute books as we speak. According to the newly elected Green Party leader Roger O'Gorman, Ireland's hate speech bill should be passed within a matter of months.
Minister McEntee has indicated she's looking to bring forward some amendments in the Seanad to deal with some of the issues, particularly some of the concerns that have been raised on the hate speech element, and I look forward to working with her. But this legislation got, if not unanimous, but incredibly strong cross-party support in Dáil Éireann, and I think it's really important that it is brought to the Seanad early in the autumn term, and it is legislated for.
I actually don't know how it got unanimously voted in. Like, it's unbelievable. A lot of people are saying it's so you can't talk bad about politicians, so you can't talk bad about the state, so you can't be, dissent the government, whatever, stuff like that, guys. But really, it is that, guys, because it's not really a left or right issue. It's such a massive issue for everyone, whether you're an artist on the left, whether you're an artist on the right, whether you just want to make music or whatever the case may be, or you're just whatever, you can't now have any free speech. You can't have any free, and that could go for as much as any art form as you think, guys. That could go very, very deep. This could go extremely deep and just be completely wash the whole country of any sort of like freedom of expression, so it's horrendous.
Almost perfectly echoes what Taoiseach Simon Harris said recently about the same issue.
I have made a decision that we are going to pass a law in this space. I'm very clear on that. It's a commitment in the programme for government, and I find it a little unusual that all but 13 TDs in Dáil Éireann voted in favour of it, and now some are running around as though they never heard of the bill.
So both Simon Harris and Roger O'Gorman say that the hate speech bill needs to be passed, and to justify this view, they point to the fact that the bill received nearly unanimous support across most parties in the Dáil, which is, to be fair, absolutely true. It passed by a landslide of 110 votes in favour compared to just 14 TDs who opposed it.
That's crazy, guys. If you look at that list, only 14 opposed it, and most of these people are either right or left-wing people. Richard Boyd Barrett, left guy. Michael Collins, who, unbelievably so, guys, a man named Michael Collins, named after our great Cork leader, opposed this bill. Of course, guys, he's turning in his grave right now, even that they suggested a bill like this should be passed. Danny Healy-Rae and Michael Healy-Rae, they're obviously on the right. Manny McGrath on the right, but then you have Paul Murphy on the left. So it's a Pater Tobin probably on the left as well. Like, you have so many people that it's not like a left or right wing issue. It's just like a complete just lack of freedom issue. This is unbelievable.
Just 14 TDs who opposed it. So is this argument from the government a good one? Is it the case that just because a lot of TDs voted in favour of the legislation, that means it should be passed into law? Well, no, not really. For example, almost every political party in the state lined up on the side of the family and care referendums, only for the public to comprehensively reject them both. And Roger O'Gorman was actually at the forefront of that referendum, and so he should know better than anybody.
Major loss, guys. I got 40,000 views on that video, my biggest political video ever. 40,000 views for that. Like, is wild, guys. I remember because I just named it like the Irish government beast and then the new referendum or whatever, something like that, and it just blew up my channel. Everyone loved it because, but just because politicians suggest something doesn't mean it's actually correct, guys. You know, I would actually suggest most of the time it's the opposite. They're doing it just for their favor and to do it in the interest of themselves and not actually for the people. Because let's be real, guys, a lot of politicians are just in it for their party and themselves to make money and not actually to help their, you know, people.
Why this argument doesn't make sense. It is far from a given that just because a lot of politicians want something, that the public must agree with them. Another reason why the number of politicians who supported the hate speech bill is irrelevant was explained by Fianna Fáil TD Willie O'D, who voted for the bill himself and later told me why he came to sorely regret that decision.
The hate speech bill was pretty much rushed through the door. We didn't have. I certainly didn't pay sufficient attention to it. I hold my hands up to that. I didn't pay sufficient attention to it until it was brought to my notice, but when I read it I was absolutely horrified. That's being quite honest about it. You know, as I say, it's impossible to be across every piece of legislation, taking into account the volume of legislation that's going through here.
So here we have
pretty strong words from him to say I was completely horrified by the bill. I mean, that's pretty strong words, guys. And you know, he says I can't keep up to date with every single bill that's passed in the whatever the Dáil. But here's the thing, guys, it's your job to keep up with every single bill. So realistically, like, you should be kind of keeping up with everything. If I went to my workplace and I said, oh, I forgot to give the guy his money back, sorry, you know, I'd be fired straight away. But because you make mistakes, guys, you get promoted, you know, nothing happens to you. And sometimes you actually get promoted in the government if you make loads of mistakes. So what a nice workplace it is up there.
Piece of legislation, taking into account the volume of legislation that's going through here.
So here we have one of the government TDs who voted for the bill admitting that the legislation was so rushed that there wasn't even time for politicians to properly scrutinise what they were voting for ahead of time. At least some of them were voting blindly without even understanding what they were signing the country up to. And by the way, some people are probably going to be very harsh to Willie O'D for admitting that, but I would just say, in fairness to him, at least he's being brutally honest and admitting the truth, as opposed to others who are continuing to obfuscate about these issues.
True.
So credit where credit is due for such forthright and self-effacing honesty. This would be a better country if politicians were more willing to say, yeah, I was wrong and I cocked up.
Hate speech bill, there's no compelling case has been made for the hate speech bill. You see what happened in Scotland over the last few days when they passed the hate speech bill. I think there were 6,000 complaints in the first 3 days.
That's unbelievable, guys. Like, and actually what happened in Scotland was unbelievable. They had like 4 comedians, mind you, 4 comedians on stage get arrested, guys, for saying jokes. Now, you know, I couldn't imagine if that was around 10 or 15 years ago or 20 years ago when people like Frankie Boyle, the most offensive comedian in the world, was around telling jokes, guys. He would have been in and out of jail for the most of his career, I would have imagined. That's unbelievable.
I mean, to me, that's not a hate speech bill, that's a cranks charter. And, you know, admittedly, when the hate speech bill was introduced initially, maybe we didn't study it closely enough. It's very hard to be across every single piece of legislation that goes through. But when the controversy started, when I did study it, I found that, number one, I don't think there's any need for it. I think that the law is sufficient as things stand at the moment, and most of the things that are designated as hate crimes are crimes already anyway. The hate is an extra element, and hate isn't even defined. So I think a great deal of time, energy, and you know, expertise has been expended on this now.
But regardless, the point is, it makes little to no sense for the government to say, well, many TDs voted for this bill, so it must be good, if it's also clear that most politicians aren't even familiar with the content of the legislation or what it says.
True.
We had Green Party Senator Pauline O'Reilly saying that the bill was about restricting freedom if your words create quote-unquote discomfort.
When you think about it,
Brutal.
all law, all legislation is about the restriction of freedom. That's exactly what we're doing here, is we are restricting freedom, but we're doing it for the common good. You will see throughout our constitution, yes, you have rights, but they are restricted for the common good. Everything needs to be balanced. And if your views on other people's identities go to make their lives unsafe, insecure, and cause them such deep discomfort that they cannot live in peace, then I believe that it is our job as legislators to restrict those freedoms for the common good.
We also...
Damn, you know, I mean, that almost sounds demonic. There's already laws against making people's lives hell, guys. You know what I mean? You don't need extra laws about about words and hurting people and stuff like that, guys. It's just ridiculous. And she is correct, guys. Let's make less laws. I would be on the favor of having less laws. Having loads of laws just to try and restrict people's freedoms constantly is not a good thing. It's a terrible thing, matter of fact.
Also had a Fine Gael senator, Joe O'Reilly, who said that the hate speech bill was needed to crack down on jokes because jokes lead to violent attacks on minorities, apparently.
Oh yeah, this guy basically talks about the slippery slope fallacy and how a joke will lead to incitement of crime and actual crime, which is completely insane, guys. That's like wazoo type stuff, like off and flipping left field, off with the fairies type of stuff. Because you say a joke, guys, doesn't mean you're gonna end up killing someone. Like, that's absolutely insane. Most people grow up playing violent video games, Grand Theft Auto, stuff like that. They don't do crazy stuff. Okay, guys, that's just complete fallacies. These are all actual logically inconsistent fallacies, and people are probably not very familiar with like basic philosophy, but they should get very familiar with it, because this is definitely wrong. This is unbelievable. Listen to what this guy says.
The homophobic attacks in parks do not begin on the night. They begin with homophobic remarks, they begin with smutty jokes, they begin with exclusion. But what happened in Navan, those children didn't get up some morning and they were conditioned. It's jokes, it's stuff online, it's stuff from television screens, etc.
This is just complete hearsay. I'd actually want to see a study on this, guys. Like does he even have a correlation study? Like, the guy probably has zero studies to prove any of this stuff. I would want to see some sort of evidence-based, fact against this. This isn't true, guys. This is just completely hearsay. Okay, this is not based in reality and based in facts. Okay,
it's a conditioning that brought them to that dreadful position.
No,
Yet when I asked Ben Taoiseach Leo Varadkar about this, he said that the senators were totally wrong and that the bill has nothing to do with any of that. Taoiseach, in the past week, a legislator from your own government has said that the hate speech bill is about restricting freedom if someone's speech creates discomfort, and another implied that the bill was about banning jokes. So are they right, or do they not understand the bill that they're voting on?
Yeah, well, look, anyone who thinks that the legislation on incitement to hatred and hate crime is about banning jokes really hasn't read the legislation. The right to freedom of expression is protected not only in our constitution, it's protected in the EU Convention on Human Rights, and also protected in the legislation itself. This is about people whose intent is to do harm.
So according...
Yeah, and obviously, guys, like, you should be cracking down on people that intend to do harm upon others. Like, okay, it's not a good thing that you have nutcases out there committing crazy, heinous crimes. Like, that is a terrible thing, and they should absolutely crack down on that, guys. But, doing this sort of, like, vast overall, you can't make any jokes, banning, and then you go to jail is not how it's supposed to be dealt with, guys. This is like a lack of, I don't know, a lack of some sort of involvement or something.
According to the Taoiseach who introduced this legislation, his own senators hadn't even read the bill that they were debating. And even more ironically, it seems like Varadkar has not read the legislation that he's discussing either, because he claimed that the legislation is about intent.
This is about people whose intent is to do harm.
In reality, the legislation says nothing about requiring intent, and in fact says that you can be convicted of recklessly inciting hatred, i.e. you can do it by accident without intending to do so. So while the Taoiseach at the time was telling us that his own senators don't understand the legislation they're going to be voting on, he inadvertently revealed that he doesn't understand it either. Very encouraging stuff all around.
That's crazy.
We also had Fine Gael Minister Neil Richmond saying that politicians are frequently the victims of hate speech because people make fun of their personal appearance. That's hate speech now, apparently.
Every single person in this house at one time or the other has been attacked online, has been a victim of hate speech.
Oh no, attacked online. Bro, this guy obviously doesn't pay much attention to the media, like, or any sort of internet activity stuff. Like, everyone gets attacked online, everybody gets trolled online. That's literally what the internet is there for. People get trolled online. I actually don't get that much hate, but like, if you're gonna put stuff out there, guys, you should be more self-reflective. Okay, what am I doing to attract the hate, guys? And honestly, it's great publicity. You know what I mean? Whether you're getting attention or you're not getting attention, the worst thing is to get ignored. At least you're getting attention on the internet. I would never flipping hate on hate, ever. I love hate, in fact, because it makes my channel bigger.
and there is different degrees of level. The majority of TDs sitting in the chamber at the moment are women. They get it far more worse than the minority, which are men at the moment. And I think if we fail to acknowledge that as men, that we fail to identify what is a clear societal problem that, yes, needs tackling by education, but also needs strict legislation in hate speech that ensures that such carry-on cannot continue.
So this is, again, another hearsay and actually not based in reality. No studies based on it saying that women get far more hate than men. You cannot prove that, guys. If anyone that could show me that evidence proving that women get more hate than men is based in actual facts, even a correlation study, I'd love to see that, because that study doesn't exist. Okay, that is complete lies. This guy is actively lying to people, guys. I'm not saying he's lying, but he's just making up false information. There is no study ever in the world to prove that women get more hate than men. Okay, in any area ever, you cannot prove that, guys. It's impossible. Okay, even if you were just to ask, like, hey, do you think that women get more hate than men? I would say men get more hate than women. Honestly, you know what I mean? I can just say that. Like, I've no factual evidence to back that up, but from what I see, just every day going around the place, yeah. So yeah, it's very, very just random, weird stuff, weird statements from these guys. Who I don't know who this guy is either. Just weird, random, factual, unfactual statements, like ridiculous.
See it regularly when it comes to race, when it comes to religion, when it comes to personal appearance, when it's not just poking fun where it is.
Did he just conflate and put the two together, race and personal appearance, in the same sentence? Like that's not, like, just because this guy's whatever overweight or anything like that, it's not the same as making fun of somebody if they're foreign. Okay, guys, it's much worse to make fun of someone's flipping background and nationality than if they're overweight, guys. All right, in my personal opinion. All right.
Directing hate.
So it seems like every other politician you ask about this bill has a different perspective on what it's trying to achieve. Politicians are voting for it without reading it. They're claiming it says things it doesn't say. They're claiming it doesn't say things that it does say. And the whole thing is an absolute mess and disaster. So the fact that almost every TD voted for the bill is not just a weak argument for it, it's actually an argument against the legislation, because it shows just how little thought went into it. It indicates that everybody just lashed the legislation through haphazardly on a general sort of feel-good progressive vibe without ever looking closely at it or engaging their brains. So if we want to make an argument for going ahead with this thing, we're going to have to do significantly better than that, I'm afraid. So last week I asked Gripped Premium members to send in their questions, and I said that I would be answering them at the end of this week's show. So here we have a question from a guy I'm going to call F. I just want to use his initial because I'm not sure if people want me to use their names or not. But this person says, a good leader understands what's going on at ground level. As an ex-soldier, I know that any good senior officer visits the front line and gets a feel for it. When has the Minister for Justice ever sat in the back of a Garda car for a few hours on a night shift in a rough area, or observed the custody suite in a busy Garda station? Or when has a Minister for Health spent a few hours going incognito in a busy A&E, or observed a few hours on a ward? Incognito is the word here because as an ex-soldier, I know that everything was cleaned up really nice before the dignitaries visited. Visit the home of a carer for a day or night and see what it takes to care for an elderly or disabled person, etc., etc.
Yeah, it's true, guys. Like when have these politicians ever walked down? They probably should walk down to Kulak and be like, hey guys, what's the crack? What's going on here? Why are you guys getting so fired up? Is there any way we can stop this from happening? Not just to flip and let, feign responsibility on it. Because it is the politicians' fault, guys. They're pulling strings and making things happen that obviously people don't want to in certain areas. So go talk to these people for a while,
Any politician willing to get down and dirty in the trenches may have a different policy outlook afterwards. Smell the blood and the puke. See the victims of crime and the savagery of the criminals. See the old people and the children in pain waiting for 12 plus hours in A&E, or lying in a ward bed pressing a buzzer and nobody there to assist them. See the exhaustion and frustration in the eyes of our Gardaí and medical staff in particular. Is that a question that you could put to relevant ministers? answers.
True.
Yeah, I think it's a terrific point, because it's always the case that when you see the outworkings of a policy, or when you are confronted with something like crime, let's say, directly in person, that has a much more profound impact on people. You know these
True.
things are bad notionally. You know, it's you can read about somebody waiting for 12 hours in A&E and you go, wow, that's terrible. But then when it happens to you or somebody that you love,
True.
and they need imminent help, and you're sitting there in the middle of the night, then you realize, like, this is really not on. My wife and I had this experience with our baby. He had to go to A&E because we thought he might have bumped his head. It turned out to be nothing, but you're there at 3 a.m. and you're waiting for hours and hours, and it's just kind of a miserable experience
100%.
overall.
It's torturous, guys. It's torturous. And the way that they do stuff, and the way politicians don't really understand what's going on at this base level, it has to be assessed, guys. So we're going to leave it right there, man. Go over to Grit Media, check them out, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, guys. Go donate, all that good stuff. Obviously, they have a massive platform. You know, I react to all news platforms. Tell me what other news platforms you guys want me to react to, guys. Drop a comment down below. I love you all. Stay free, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man. Peace.